Hi, it's Aunt Michelle, and I wanted to read you the book, Drawing on Walls. And this is about Keith Haring, the artist. Let me go ahead and start at page number 1. Here is Keith Haring painting a mural with hundreds of children in Tamo City, Japan. Keith draws outlines, and the kids fill them in with their own designs. When Keith was a kid, he and his dad often drew together. They took turns creating lines and watched as a balloon became an ice cream cone. A dog transformed into a fire-breathing dragon. Sometimes they even drew with their eyes closed. Keith drew all the time, everywhere, but not on the walls, his mother would say, just as he was getting some big ideas. Keith was the oldest in the family, and he gradually grew. His 3 sisters arrived. First Kay, then Karen, then finally, when Keith was 12, Kristen was born, and they lived in Kutztown, a small town in Pennsylvania. Keith loved being a big brother. In the summer, he organized games and carnival contests in the backyard, and he would invite the entire neighborhood. He also formed clubs and with secret passwords and made little houses where his friends could play. When Kristen, his sister, was old enough to hold a crayon, Keith invented a game like the one his dad taught him. Each would draw on a sheet of paper, and when someone said, "Stop," they swapped sheets and continued drawing. Keith also painted Kristen's hands and pressed them on a paper, and they made a mobile. A mobile is something that kind of flies in the sky with a string. Keith's best friend loved making art too, and the two of them created lots of art in their garage. And they made lines that were twisting and turning up and down. When Keith was 16, he went to Ocean City, New Jersey, where he lived a block away from the beach, with kids from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and New York City. Here's Keith drawing again. After high school, he moved to Pittsburgh to study art, but it wasn't a good fit. He wanted to be free from school. And so on a trip one day, he read a book by the artist Robert Henry. The book was called The Art Spirit, and it said, "Do whatever you do intensely. Leave the crowd." So that's exactly what Keith did. Keith took several jobs and saved enough money to travel. And when he returned to Pittsburgh, he spent hours in the library reading about artists. Finally, Keith decided to go to New York City, beep, beep, and that's where he got the freedom that he always wanted. When Keith arrived in the city, he enrolled back into college at a school called the School of Visual Arts. He was only 20 years old, and one day he found rolls of paper, and he decided to paint, and paint. See how many people are there in New York? It's a busy city. Keith especially liked to paint on the floor. And Keith lived in an area called the East Village, and he would meet lots of new friends. And he would earn his money by making sandwiches and working at a bar and becoming a deliverer on his bike. And he would work in an art museum, and he would teach children how to do art. So he worked a ton of jobs. He decided to draw on the walls where you were allowed to draw, and his art really got popular. People decided that his artwork, maybe instead of being in the subways, maybe he should be in an art gallery. So he started to get hired for different jobs all around New York. And when Keith made money, he donated the money to local children's museums. And that's the story of Keith Haring, the boy who never stopped drawing. I love that book, and I hope you did too.